In order to decide to make this video, one of the most challenging thing for me, I guess, was actually deciding about the topic of this video. And I mean, talking about culture, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video, is something really sensitive, and most people do get emotional about it really quick. But I'm not diving into social culture in a very political landscape, but it is mostly about the economics and just the psychological side of everything that we experience in culture. And I'm nowhere an expert on this topic to elaborate the global culture that we live in, but I think I do have a very great perspective from the place I was born into and the place I lived in and the place I'm currently living in. So, for me personally, it's been a great honor and a privilege to have experienced a quite bit both of this side. Of course, I still have a very whole different level to explain about culture, which is very far from where I am. But so far, I've got a grasp about the reality of my observation about the social culture and around the world, and mostly around the uh, well, the countries that we call third world countries and also first world country, like the Western. And I do live in Western. I mean, I do live in Spain, which is considered as being part of the Western civilization as well. And I've been born into a country named the Benin Republic. For those who don't know, it is a beautiful country, very close to Nigeria in the western part of Africa. In my country, we do speak French, which is why most people of my country don't come to Spain, but they do go to France. It is more easier to speak that language rather than learning a different language. And my first point here is already about language. Language is culture. Language is what define people, it is how they think about the world and how they express the world. Their worldview is a road around the language. And in order to connect with someone, you first have to speak the language. Of course, there are subtle ways to connect with people which are really different from words, because we do have very common way of relating and connecting to other human being different from language. But we cannot deny the importance of the language in our culture and our society as a whole. And as we talk about society, most people tend to think that society is a kind of fixed company in a specific location, but society is just the whole thing. I mean, society is you, it is me, it is everyone. We are the component of the society that we form and that we live in, and that society has its rules, has its principle that govern the whole structure that we live in and do business in. So one of the thing that bothered me or bothered me a lot, that I was thinking about it, I couldn't understand, was first the organization of each society. And hear me out. By organization, I mean the very first structure of the way people live and do the businesses. Well, if you think about it, because I've talked about this before in my previous video, what is the most basic need of the human being? And we pretty know that. We know that we just need a shelter, we need a food, and we need water to survive. And that is the first most basic thing that we need. But our life is not just about survival. Of course, it is the most important and the first thing. And I think you understanding my point or to this point, right? So surviving is the first and most crucial thing in our whole existence, because whatever we do after surviving, it matters, but it doesn't contribute enough to just the first element of life, which is to survive. So in different society, you will notice that people are not doing things as if they are surviving. They're thriving, like they are doing things that are not related to surviving. Now, of course, in this city, specific city that I live in, Valencia, you will notice there is not a production seat like a farm. But in my country, we all have farms. I mean, not in just in my country. I mean, there are people in my country who don't own any farm, but we own farms. And so my worldview was just revolved around having a production system like farming. But here you can see different people doing different things, not related to directly to the production, but also making a living and then being able to or have a car, have a house, and do the things. So it was really complicated to understand, okay, why and how can someone else do this? I mean, don't have anything to do with the farm and then still living and even more better than I. So it was a question I was trying to find our answers to, because of course, I did have a perception of that before, but it is been about being in the reality and seeing it with yourself for yourself. I mean, for yourself, that hits differently. I mean, I'm not into the comparison of countries. Of course, countries are different and people are different. But if you think about it critically, everything starts from farming. Everything starts from that point. But how do we evolve to the point that people don't need that first basic element to survive anymore? I mean, we do eat. I mean, everybody eats. Everybody survive based upon the farm. But how are these society, or how is this society get so compressed that people can be so far from the farm and then still survive and even thrive? And that is the first important question that I was trying to answer and give answers to. And it means you can see, for instance, a tech guy who is billionaire. I mean, what is he? What the hell is he doing? I mean, what is his work, and how does his work is even more important than a farm producer that works is to even survive, or to help people survive. How the tech guy is how the work of the tech guy is more important than the farmer. That question is not just a simple question. It is a very social cultural compressed question. We've evolved that to the point that we don't just desire what do we need to survive, we just desire things we need to thrive. And you see that across society, and you see that across even your country. In every country we have different classes of group, and you have the poor and you have the rich. And rich doesn't necessarily mean just the amount of money that someone has, but it is the amount of resources and opportunity that someone is exposed to. And those opportunities and rich, I mean, first of all, rich is based first on the principle of being able to survive first. Everyone that is being able to survive is rich first, and we are born rich naturally. But after the point that you've survived, and then you can be exposed to a very different type of opportunity, then you are in another level, you are in another completely league. So the point is, society is really divided into classes, and then we are still consuming foods, we are still consuming farm products to survive. We have not evolved yet to the point that we just consume things that are not, extracted from the ground. We don't necessarily, I mean, we don't eat something that is not produced from the farmers. And you ask yourself why there's the world population. 1% of the world population is just farmer, but 99% of the world population is not farmer. And how do we survive as a culture, and how do we do that? I mean, by understanding this, you can see the dynamic of society, and you can see the whole pyramid of society, and you can find your way out of there. But it is not an easy approach to life, but it is not even it is one of the best though. If you understand it clearly, you can see the dynamic of every society and how every society is organized. And my point is not to convince anyone to believe in what I'm saying. And as I put it, my videos are for my future grandchildren. So it is really important to understand the dynamic of any society, and pursuing a dream or a goal in a society first evolve around basic structure of that society to be understood by the individual seeking the pursuit of any particular goal around in that society. So it is critical to understand the whole dynamic of our world, and that is critical, like I said many times already. So my final point here is, my takeaway of this particular video, which I just rumble around the point, is that the human being everywhere in the world has the same existential threat. We are all in the same universe. We are all in the same world. Don't mind about all these distinction between country. Of course they are important, but they are just in our mind and we created them. But they are not what created the world. In fact, think about it. The world don't create things. Things are created and the world are just to name them. So everything that we experience in this life and everything that we have as human being are important, but there are things that are not in fact truly important. They are just a distraction to the really critical goal to our life, and most people feel lost at this point, even myself included. We are distracted from that. And my thought before making this video was about the cultural life between where I'm from and the here, which is that life here is very fast, and you are always busy. You are always trying to get along with the fast pacing life, and it is a really you can be really anxious and you can be stressed about it, and those things also lead to another profession. You see a lot of psychologists here, you see a lot of therapists here, on all those things. So we evolve around every time everything we evolve into creates different type of problem. Those problems create different type of jobs, and everything keeps changing, and we are still living in that constant cycle of change. And the biggest nation today can afford a certain point of time, and then the hungrier nation today want to innovate, want to take over the world, and they get to the top again. Everything's storm, like history, everything repeat themselves again. History doesn't repeat itself necessarily, but people do repeat the history. So it is an important point that I just wanted to put this whole thought together. And if you do understand a bit of it, you could understand that the dynamic of society and the structure in which we live is not just a singular path. It is a whole conundrum of a spectrum of things that have been created and shaped from the collective consciousness. And by the collective consciousness, I mean things that we have created together in our mind to believe to be true. And those things shape our reality, and those reality open our universe to possibilities and things that govern our life in a very dramatic way, and also in a very beautiful way as well. Because without that, we wouldn't have the camera that I have today to use and upload the video to YouTube. We do believe in that individually, and we believe in that collectively, because that is how we are able to make a society we live in function properly. Without that, we couldn't even think about any society where millions of people come together and do things together. That's not possible. We do believe in that collective consciousness to function properly as a society, and that's one thing. And that's last thing that I started making a point about, which is the different in the socio-culture around the world. There is no difference actually. There are countries that has evolved around their needs and get to a very different point of life, and there are countries, think about it, life everywhere is the same, and human life around every country is the same. Everybody is facing every emotion, and well, whoever you see in life who has something beautiful that you want, that beautiful thing has been created by something that you don't want to see, and that thing might be something that you might not like. And when you envy someone, for instance, when you are jealous of someone, when you want something for someone, you are only wanting the beautiful side of it, but you don't know what has made him become that thing. And that thing is also there in his whole universe. There is no white without black, and there is no dark without light. And You see, the people that has evolved to that level of light has been through so many darkness, and you might not want to see that darkness. You might not want to see that dark side of them, or even as a nation, or even as a universe. It is true for individual. It is true for nation. It's true for everybody. To become that light, you go through a lot of darkness, and when people want to have something, I mean, envy someone, they don't want to really experience the dark side of that reality, which is can be taunting. And so the point is, Africa or some developing country might be wanting the life of Europeans or you the first world country, but they don't actually also might not critically understand the whole thing that evolves. I'm not saying that we Africans as a nation, as a continent, we shouldn't do that, but there are things to it. There are sacrifices to do. We will definitely have to sacrifice some kind of family structure and way of living, which is not easy because the way African live or some African live as a community and as a group will be sacrificed to attain a kind of organization in society, and that's what's happening in the West, and that's what's happening in developing country, because the family structure has to be destroyed to be replaced by states and companies, because what company do here is what family do for the relative in my country. For let's take a case for insurance company, for instance. The insurance company take the risk of an individual about something that they are uncertain about. But family, I don't have insurance company in my village, but I do take risks. Who guarantee those risks? They are my relative, my parents, my family. But for an insurance company to function properly in my village, they have to destroy the family structure first, and that takes years, that take decades, that take years. I mean, the dynamic of the family itself can be destroyed by the pressure, by the pressure of different kind of entity in that environment. But it takes time for people to adapt and for people to evolve into that frequency to destruct the whole universe. The whole organization that they've built for years and for decades. And Africa, or third world country, it doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to become rich or to evolve. It's not about that. What make a country what they are, what make an individual what they are, it is not about the resources they have. Everybody do have a certain kind of resource, but it is about becoming or getting into that darkness, or when going through that dark period in which they transform, they destroy all the social structure to build a new one, and that new one is the one that get to transform something into something else. And that period is not beautiful to see. The period after that construction might be beautiful, but the transition is not beautiful. It is darkness, and see it through the history. America is not built upon just hard work. It's built on also colonization. You think about it. The English went to America, they colonized the country, and the Spaniards went to America, they colonized places as well. The European also went to Africa, they colonized the country. These are not beautiful stories, but it has been done to create the great nation that they are. It's not solely that has participated in it, but it has been as well. It has been part of their history. And so think about it. For Africa to evolve, I'm not saying that Africa has to become a colonizer, but there are sacrifices to our ambitions, and those are one of those sacrifices can be the family structure. And if Africans value family structure more, then it might not work. And I don't mean that we cannot have that family structure without having an evolution. And the point is not solely focused on the family structure, but you see the similarity around country in the world, and you see that this is one of them, and there are tons of them. I don't know them all. I'm still learning about them, but it is really critical to think about what we want and how we can get there, and the price that is included, because there is nothing free, and there is huge price to pay for it. And therefore, not just for Africa, but developing country around the world pay the price. Cities and towns, millions of cities pay the price. They work hard. They do the work and they do the dirty work. And they are plumbers. I mean, there are people that don't do the sexy work. There are people that don't do the high paying job, but they are part of the society that build the beautiful that everybody see. So it is not easy as we think it is, and it is not as beautiful as we think it is. It is just a common struggle around the world. It's not just for Africans, and even the richest countries in the world has the problem. America has its problem, Russia has its problem, and every country has its problem. And I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about the human psychology, and I'm not talking about the human needs. And everybody has problem. Don't think Donald Trump, for instance, don't have problem. He has problem. He has to eat as well. Everybody has problem. And also that's knowing that allows you first to focus on your problem and not just thinking that someone else is ahead of you, because no one is ahead of you. You are just chasing your dream and you are focusing on yourself. Even as a nation, that is what we do. And even as an individual, that's what we focus on. So my whole point is just a mess of from individual to country for to universe. I mean, I'm talking about the whole spectrum of the universe to the individual and to the whole creation that belongs to it. So hope you understand a bit of it. I didn't make any note script. I mean, I didn't script everything, so I just wanted to convey my thought, and I hope I did it that. And yeah, so this is for my great children, so I hope they understand something from it. Thank you.